Hello YouTube, and thank you so much for tuning into my channel. If you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe, click the like button, comment if you have ever had any similar experiences, or yeah, just let me know what you guys are thinking. So, I get asked a lot about my dating life. So a lot of my friends, so the majority of the people that I hang out with are cisgender. And a lot of my cisgender friends ask me questions about like the types of guys that I date, the types of guys that are into me, and what my prospects are in terms of relationships. Now, when I began my transition, I never feared that I wouldn't meet anyone. Like, I was never afraid that I wasn't going to meet anyone, because I think even back then, I knew that there were men who were attracted to trans women. Now, what I believed back then, this is what I believed about trans amorous men. I really believed that trans amorous men were men that were attracted to trans women and cisgender women equally. I honestly thought that they were the types of guys who would date you and want to be with you, and you having an extra part or an extra member didn't really bother them. They sort of saw beyond that. Girl, life humbled me. Life really humbled me. Like, no joke. Life really humbled me and taught me that I really was not that girl. I found out early on in my transition that these guys who were trans amorous, although they stated that their preference was to date trans women, it really wasn't a preference, it was a demand. And what I mean by that is, I've met so many guys who were interested in pursuing a relationship with me, and every time I encounter these guys, or every time I talk to them, they seem to always ask me the same question. You know, they want to know what my position is. They want to know if all of the parts are working as they should. They often want to know about like my breast size and just random questions that you would never ask a cisgender girl. But it almost feels like when I encounter a lot of trans amorous men, they have this checklist of, is everything in order? Is everything working? Because if it's not, then I'm not keen on pursuing anything, or, you know what I mean? And it always kind of made me feel weird, especially in the beginning. Look, when I began my transition, I was one of the girls who wanted to have everything done. Anything and everything that you could get done, I wanted to get done. Because I think coming into my transition, I was so broken down, and I was so insecure just about my body. I was insecure about just everything. I really, really was. I wanted to have facial feminization. I wanted to have voice feminization. I wanted to have a tummy tuck, boob job, butt augmentation, and I definitely wanted to have SRS. And I think back then, you know, I had so much dysphoria just around that part of my body, and I had so much anxiety and so many fears. And it was a part of my body that I absolutely hated. Now, when I started meeting guys and hooking up with guys, it would always come up. It would always come up in conversations. They would always ask me, you know, well, are you going to have it cut off? Are you going to do anything to it? And the way they would ask me was almost to let me know that they were against me having any type of surgery. And that kind of, I'm not going to say it messed me up, because, girl, please, no man could ever mess me up. But it definitely influenced my decisions as to whether or not I would have surgery. And I remember early on, I used to hate how these guys would make me feel fetishized. Now, you need to understand, back then, I had so many insecurities about my body, and I would get myself into situations where I would hook up with someone, and they would almost want to like put a light or shine a light on the parts of my body that I was the most embarrassed about, which is Penelope and all of that. And it made me feel so weird. In a weird way, it almost felt like they were affirming my masculine identity, or they were more focused on the person that I thought that I used to be. And it really made me not enjoy intimacy, especially in those early days. I really didn't. And I think this is why like trans amorous men have such a bad reputation within the trans community, because they kind of make you feel like a man even more. You know what I mean? You walk into the relationship with dysphoria. You walk into the relationship with all of these insecurities about like your body changing and all of that. And these guys can sometimes highlight the very thing that you hate the most about yourself, or the very thing that you're the most insecure about. And then to add insult to injury, it's almost as though, like, and I've seen this happen to girls I know. These guys will present you with the opportunity to be in a relationship, but there will be conditions placed on that. Namely, their demand that you never have SRS surgery. And I remember the first time I encountered this, the first time I met a guy who was really against me having SRS surgery, I just asked him, I was like, so what? Like, is this my transition or is it your transition? Because you seem more invested in this than me. And I didn't understand, because I felt like here was a man who dated trans women and cisgender women interchangeably. But if for me as a trans woman, if I had surgery, he would then no longer want to be with me. And that just never made sense to me. It honestly never made sense to me. I was like, then what is it? You know what I mean? Like what's going on? Now, I've since worked on myself a lot since I began my transition. I mean, I've been living as myself for the past 7 years. And in that 7 years, I've definitely grown a lot. I've grown in acceptance. But I can tell you this, that me accepting myself didn't really come in the arms of any man. Me loving myself did not come in the form of a relationship. If anything, all of those relationships made me question myself. I had this fear in the beginning that if I had surgery, that no one would want to be with me. I really had this massive fear that no one would want to be with me. And it kind of set me back, you know, and it really did set me back, and it played in my mind so many times. Like, I just had this massive fear that if I do this, if I get the big chop, I am going to be in a situation where nobody wants to be with me, and I end up being alone. And I had to get to a point in my journey where I was okay with that. I had to get to a point in my journey where I was like, look, if I have SRS surgery and nobody wants to be with me, you know, guys that aren't trans amorous don't want to be with me because I'm trans or because I've had surgery, and guys that are trans amorous don't want to be with me because I've cut my member off. I had to get to a point where I was like, I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely okay with that. I do not need the validation of any of these men in order to feel like, you know, I'm good enough, or, yeah, like I don't need any of that. So I had to get to that point within myself. And when I got to the point where I was absolutely okay with not being in a relationship, it was then that I really started to own my transition, own my body, and start to look at the things about myself, like evaluate my self-hatred. challenge all of the limiting beliefs that I had about myself. And I got to a point, in my journey where I realized that I was actually okay with my body. I think after I had my orchiectomy surgery and I got on hormones, I just had this massive change just in my confidence. I started feeling better about myself, and I started celebrating the things about me that I used to hate. And I'm at a point right now where, I'm happy with my body. I actually, I'm really okay with using my member. Like as you guys know, like I'm a top. I try not to bottom if I can. And that's just where I am in my own journey. But the thing is, I didn't get to that point because of a trans-amorous man. If anything, trans-amorous men stood in between me and self-acceptance because they had all of these preconceived notions as to what I needed to be and how my body needed to be and what they wanted to do with my body. And their fetishization, if that is even a word, was a stumbling block that I had to learn to overcome. Now, are all trans-amorous men bad? No, absolutely not. Please do not take that message from this video. There are a lot of trans-amorous men that I've dated, like my ex Jimmy and my ex Michael. I almost said his real name. There are a lot of trans-amorous men that have been sweet and just have treated me with absolute respect, as they should. I will say, though, that I've been in situations where I've had partners who did things that made me feel uncomfortable, who would want to shine a light on areas of my body that I wasn't 100% comfortable with. Now, you need to understand that your partner is not a mind reader. They are not privy to your thoughts, and they do not have the advantage of knowing each and everything that you are insecure about. If you have an insecurity or you're not cool with something that they're doing, you have to vocalize it. You need to let them know. And if they're a good guy, they're going to, work around it, or they're going to stop whatever they're doing. And if they don't, they're not the right one for you. It's as simple as that. And any man that will ever place an ultimatum over you and say that if you have SRS surgery, I'm going to leave you, he's not the man that you're supposed to be with anyway. Any man that's going to tell you that your fears are crazy or the way that you think is not justified is not somebody you need to be messing with. In the early days of my transition, I think honestly the first 5 years, the first 4 to 5 years, I would meet guys who seemed to be interested in me, but were interested in keeping me as their secret. Now, I've gotten to a point in my own confidence where I realize that I'm no one's secret, I'm somebody's trophy. And there are more than enough men out there. More than enough, too many in fact, that will want me on their shoulder, that will want to show me off and not shun me away. And for me, my demand when it comes to relationship, or my requirement, is that I am with somebody who's proud of me. I'm with somebody who's proud of me. I'm with somebody who wants to show me off. And I'm with somebody who accepts the journey of my transition, who's okay with me if I decide in 15 years' time I want to have SRS surgery. I need to be with somebody who is okay with that. And that's just on period. There are no ifs, buts, or coconuts. This is my journey, this is my transition, and this is my body. Yes, I shared with a partner, but at the end of the day, I'm the only one who has the assignment to live in this body. So for you watching this, if you're struggling with relationships and you're struggling with acceptance, realize it's not going to come in the arms of a trans-amorous man. It's just not. It's going to come from you. The only thing a man can ever do with you is walk with you as you walk on this journey. Help you out as you help yourself. That's the only thing that a man can do for you. So, yes, there are a lot of guys that are going to be interested in you. There are going to be a lot of guys that are going to damn near break the door trying to talk to you. Your job is to love yourself. Your job is to be selective. And your job is to be with partners that make you feel good about yourself. And if you find yourself lonely, if you find yourself without a partner, use that time to work on yourself. Use that time to focus on the things that you want. I love you. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that it helped, even just a little. I love you so much, you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Auf Wiedersehen. Bye.